Before this episode begins, just a quick reminder that we are not professionals in any way. The views, information or opinions expressed in this podcast are solely the views of the individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and guests can change at any time. G'day listeners, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. We are your hosts Jacob
and Josh.
For the first time on Let's Talk About It, we have with us a guest, Travis Spencer.
Hello guys.
With the daily needs of our responsibilities, it can often become difficult to put in the time for ourselves. What we would like to discuss is the importance of self-care, exercise and nutritional values that can help us appreciate our bodies and harness the full capacity of our capabilities. So, let's talk about it. So, tell us about yourself, Travis. What is it that you do?
Well, currently first I better explain my voice before the listeners go, what's this guy? Is he a smoker? I'm actually, we did a staff party and I was screaming, carrying on karaoke for 2 hours and I'm still getting my voice back. So just in advance, I apologise for that. But back to your question, I now have run the gym in Plus Fitness in Gawler. And between personal training and running the gym, that is my life at the gym. So.
Yeah. And the reason why I thought it was a good idea to bring you on was because I remember a couple of years ago when I started going back to Plus Fitness, we were having awesome conversations. It was good to actually have a conversation with someone that was knowledgeable and had truthful understandings of how nutrition and exercise really works, and not this over-hyped idea of that you should be doing this, you should be doing that. It's just telling the truth about what our bodies are able to do and doing the exercises within the frameworks of what it is that we should be doing. And that's what I really liked, is that when we went deep into those conversations, I got a lot of good knowledge out of you. So
well, that's good. I mean, that was, like you said, that was a couple of years ago. And to be honest, that's 2 years ago, and then even to this day, I'm still learning. So, and I'm sure we could have another conversation about that. But so it's a constantly evolving landscape. There's new sciences coming through. There's new researchers, and I love it. I love it. I'm always learning. It's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Constant discovery.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
100%. If people think they know it all, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. And even the top trainers who I follow and I read books, they're constantly evolving and learning. And I think you're a fool if you think you know everything about any particular skill.
Absolutely.
It's like with jiu-jitsu that I love to do. It's I've been doing that for 11 years and I still feel like a white belt. Like I'm still learning.
There's always that one guy that'll kick your ass.
100%. 100% there is. 100%. Yes. And often they're half your age, which is pretty humbling.
Oh, look at you. You look very fit. You're a very fit person.
For my age, I do all right.
You look
For my age, I do all right.
How old are you? Go on, tell us.
I'm 46 in January.
Oh, it doesn't look a day over 21.
So, and hopefully that's, if I'm preaching, good health and eating correctly and good sleeping habits, stuff like that. I hope people can't just turn around and say, well, what would you know? You're young. I'm nearly 46 and I'm still doing it and I'm still keeping up with the young ones to a degree. And that's what I try to,
I think that also shows it's sustainable as well, because I think a lot of people have a view on fitness that it's kind of like, it's something that's going to take up too much of my time, or it's too much and it's not sustainable. And I feel like that's kind of a misinterpretation, because it depends on what your goals are, how you want to go about it. I'm sure as a personal trainer, you would know a lot about that.
It's funny you say about sustainability, because I say that as when people start their journey, I really encourage it. We've got to give you a plan that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of PTs out there, especially if they get their client for the first time. They want to see what they want. They're dying to hear them how sore they are the next day.
Yeah.
Whereas I have a different approach where I want them to walk away going, I felt that, but they have a sense of achievement.
Yeah.
They wake up the next day and like, ooh, yeah, I feel that a bit,
Yeah.
but they're not crippled. Like, I don't want them on the toilet doing a crap and then can't get up because of me,
They're cursing you on the toilet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's different. I mean, if you've been training for months or if you want to be extended and that's a different story, then I'll push you to what your capabilities are. But, you got to be sustainable. And that's what I do. I mean, as I've gotten older, I used to do jiu-jitsu 6 days a week.
Far out.
And I'd still do that if I could. My body would allow it. But I was getting a lot of injuries, so much that even my femur, which is the strongest bone in your body, that was getting bruised because of all the trauma. So I had to scale it back. And it's the best thing I've done because now I'm less injured. I can still do what I love, and my performance really hasn't dropped. I've just had to find what's a sustainable model. And
it's good that you're like listening to your body and understanding.
It's only taken about 25 years.
Better late than never.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like sustainability, with the approach that I take for like my methods of training is that like I only look at like the compounds and doing it 1 day a week, but pushing it to the absolute limit. So that way,
I've noticed.
I've noticed that. So it's just, you got to really listen to your body and understand that it's not. These are, they're little microscopic injuries on the muscle that need to heal, but they're also microscopic tools that are working at fixing those problems and stuff. And it can take a good week to fix it. And like Dorian Yates says, if you've got a bloody hand, you don't want to keep cutting it up to make the callus bigger because the first callus hasn't even formed. You need to be able to actually push it, let it heal, push it, let it heal, so that way it can build that thick, dense strength and
100%
keep going.
100%, and it goes back to your sustainability thing where people, and I do admire the fact when they start any exercise. I see it in jiu-jitsu too, like people fall in love with the sport. They go, oh my God. And I get it. But, you can't red line all the time. You do your jiu-jitsu or you're doing the gym work and it's you're essentially going into the gym and breaking up the muscle. Your recovery, your sleep, your food, and that's where all your repair is. Mainly your sleep is such a high thing. So having a balance is the key. It's not about I've got to get in the gym 6 days a week, and the more I put in, the more I get out. That's not the case, as you know. So,
absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the main things that I have in terms of discussions with other people that are, you could say, gym junkies, and they say, I don't know how you only do it once a week, and it's just like because I feel like the end goal for me is to get to where it is that I want to be with like the way that I look, and being in the gym 6 days a week just isn't going to help me get to that situation. So I think if people are going to train so much, I feel like they should do shorter sessions, and that's another thing, 6 days to 7 days a week where people are like training 2 hours a day. Like, where does your body actually get the time to heal and like rejuvenate itself? So if you're going to train like every day, I feel like it should be not with heavy weight. It should be with moderate intensity because you're not a machine. You can't, and eventually machines break down, and they need that time to be lubed up, fixed, and ready to go again.
That's right.
And I mean that's it. Like if you continue down this path, the consequences are not going to be microscopic.
No,
they're going to be a lot larger.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like, would you rather burn yourself out? Because then you're going to have a period where you're probably not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, did you really benefit in the long run?
Yes.
If your goal is to be the best version of yourself, let's say size, mass, whatever, if you then pursuing that ends with you unable to pursue it any further, you're not achieving your goal.
No. And if it's something you love, you'll be emotionally affected too. Like, it affects your mental health.
Bad breakup.
Well, I'd rather give up business than give up gym.
Another thing is that like diet and stuff. A lot of people. I'm sort of going into like people that are religiously going to the gym every day, pushing it, and then have these diets where they're pushing high amounts of proteins, high amounts of carbohydrates, and in the end, it doesn't give off that nice look to themselves. If they're strength training and they feel like they're using if they're using a surplus of fuel and they need to keep going and stuff. But then when you start to actually get more fat than muscle itself,
well, but
it
if
just
you're a
doesn't-
powerlifter, you want that. You need
Mass
mass.
means mass.
Yes, 100%. And then some of the guys who are the biggest guys in the gym are big guys. You know, they shift a lot, but it depends what you want aesthetically. You know, like that's not what I want. I can't move fast in my sport if I look like that.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu would be a bit of a...
Oh, yeah, unless you're on top of the person.
Oh, yeah,
It
true.
might come out. But you need to get there first. and your cardio needs to last.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah.
So what got you started on this?
The gym?
Yeah.
What, purchasing the gym? Or just my gym journey?
So gym journey, because obviously you would have started somewhere and then you've had the aspiration to become a manager of a gym. Was that...
Well, there's a few things I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a teacher,
Yep.
be a gardener,
Okay.
a police officer,
Okay.
own a gym, and own a video shop. I've done 4 out of those.
Oh, far out.
Bloody hell.
Kicking goals.
And the other one I did try. I got all the way to the end and the pre-recruitment interview for the police. They decided I wasn't a suitable applicant. Which was at the end a blessing in disguise because at the same time that's when I was looking at the Plus Fitness gym and I loved that too, and I thought, oh, do I really want to have my own business again? Because prior to that I had Blockbuster for 13 years.
Okay, far out.
And I thought I'm done with the headaches and the stress because I get emotionally invested in my businesses and I find it very hard to detach myself from it. So because I want to give the best and say it's
your gym proves that point. Your gym and the people that are in your gym prove that point.
Well, thanks,
you've
man.
got a good gym and you've got good people in the gym, and that's what makes it.
eh?
Makes it very much worth going there.
Yeah,
every time.
Oh, we're so lucky that the Gawler community is just—they're awesome. They're just awesome people,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we're very lucky that we don't have any idiots. And
well, that's why we're buying a house down in Gawler now, because the area is just so nice. The people are so nice.
Yes,
I love that.
Yes,
I want to be around that.
Yeah, and it has that country feel, but you're still close to everything.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
But so when I didn't get into police, and I just kept pursuing this gym, and then I just decided to go for this one, and then I thought that's another thing off my list.
Yeah.
But, not that I want to tick it and go. I do love it, and nothing beats that feeling of helping people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right,
Well, that's good. One of the questions, some of the most common misconceptions that you find you're dealing with people, and also some of these conceptions can make people very stubborn into actually getting them to go further. So what is it that you find that troubles people the most in terms of what they think they know?
In regards to even just walking through the door for the first time?
Yeah.
Simple thing that I think it's all that they know, they think when they go in, they're going to have to smash it hard off the get-go. That's a massive misconception. Whereas people are pretty surprised, and when I give them a program, it's like, oh, is that it? So,
Yeah.
I simply want you to come in, warm up, do this weight sequence for probably 20 minutes, and I want you to leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool, I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, is because it helps create that routine, and even for them to get from their house, make that decision that I want to start the gym, and then go to an intimidating, or in their eyes, an intimidating place with strangers working out. They think there's mirrors there. They think people are going to be looking at them. They might be a bit self-conscious. So they're thinking, like, oh no, this is way too intimidating. And actually, when I talk to them, work with them a bit, and they see the environment, then they're like, oh, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. So that is probably the biggest misconception that I experience, is that they think all the gyms are the same, and there are gyms out there that are your big boy gyms, and that's great. I'm glad that those guys have got those places to go.
Absolutely,
because that's just not our demographic at our gym. So
that's one I could see that. I feel like a lot of the people that I do talk to with no experiences within the gym always say that I'm very too insecure to be around those types of people. And in terms of like diet misconceptions, do you find that there's a lot of misconceptions around diet? Because a lot of there was this quote I saw. It was when dieting becomes a popularity thing or like a thing instead of just a lifestyle.
Oh, yes.
And people make it more of an actual thing than just a lifestyle. Is that one of the things that you would see a lot of? People saying that I don't have time to diet, cook up all the time. And
Yeah, don't get me started. Because you're right, it is part of my lifestyle. Part of my life is on a Sunday night for an hour, I'll stand on the barbecue and I'll meal prep. I'll cook a couple of kilos of kangaroo and a whole thing of vegetables and da-da-da-da-da. But do I enjoy doing that? No, not really. But do I enjoy the end result of feeling good and feeling clean and not having to buy lunch and during the week? Then it is worth it. But diet, I mean, even I'm approaching 3 years in the gym, and I've heard so many different variations of diet just in 3 years, the keto and the vegan. I mean, as soon as a new documentary comes out,
everyone's on
that,
it.
like the game changes, and even that got me thinking, maybe I should be doing a bit more plant-based. And then I'm doing more research. I'm following, well-accredited doctors, and then I think, okay, it's really hard. I find it very hard, and I live and breathe it. I love it.
Yeah.
So what is the average consumer's chance got? They're just bombarded with information. And it's like, what do you take?
And it's not like they're seeing a lot of the information you see on diets, like fad diets, there's advertisement for this, advertisement for that. It's like you're just going to get lost in this world of quick, easy fixes, which isn't how it works. You can't just have that quick, easy fix. You can't have that diet where you lose 40 kilos in 2 months and then expect it to be sustainable.
Well, I'm glad you said and be sustainable at the end of that, because I can make a big person drop that much like that, no problem. But it's funny because people, they enter any diet eating a normal Western diet, and then they, processed food, high in sugar, which is high in like hidden sugars, and then you do any diet, keto diet, vegan. What do they all have in common? They eliminate all sugars. Yeah. So then they, as soon as they start losing all this weight, they go, "Well, I'm on this diet and I've lost all this weight." No joke, you have, because you've eliminated these things, and so that's why when you actually look at it, you go, if you have a balanced diet, take away those refined sugars, processed foods, you're going to be on a pretty good track. And providing you're balancing your calorie intake, you're on a good wicket. And that goes to sustainability. Yeah. I love my kangaroo. I love my stir fry vegetables with olive oil. I put heaps of olive oil and nuts, and so it's flavoursome. Yeah. And I can eat that every day because it tastes nice. It's not steamed broccoli with cauliflower and a dried chicken breast. No.
Yeah, well, me personally, I've started getting back into my diet a little bit more better, and one of the things that I used to do, because I used to be a bit bigger, I'm not as big as what I am now, but I used to eat a lot of protein and carbohydrates, and when I really started to investigate how much protein we really should be eating, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, is that if you've got 75% of the body weight being muscle, then you've got 22% of the muscle itself as actual protein, and then 70% of it water, and that means 8% of other raw matter. So if we're consuming high amounts of protein, what is it that actually happens? Well, it's just going to become another thing for a carbohydrate to be used. And the worst part about oversynthesizing on protein is that it's got so it's similar to carbohydrates. It's got the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And then for a protein, it's got that nitrogen additive. So when your body uses it for a actual carbohydrate, it has to rid the nitrogen through the kidneys to get rid of. And that can have a bad effect in terms of getting rid of it and damaging your organs and stuff. So I feel like for me, when it came to actually eating a correct amount of protein, I went from eating around 150 to 180 a day to only eating about 80, and still actually seeing progression and noticing that my body was able to stay leaner and I was still functioning better. And if you look at it from the perspective of, okay, if your protein is around 20 to 25% of your everyday diet, and then you've got 60 to 65% carbohydrates and then about 10 to 15% of fats. If your intake has to be 1.5 or 2 grams of protein per body weight, and it adds up to 150 to 180 for someone like my weight, which is 70 kilos, and if that's going to be 25%, that means for the carbohydrates, which needs to be 60%, needs to be around 600 grams of carbohydrates. And that is a large quantity of carbohydrates. And if you're overeating in protein as well, and if your body doesn't need exactly as much as what you think it needs, then you're only adding to more of those carbohydrates and then just building up this waste of energy that gets stored on the fat. And I feel like one of the main things that I notice with a lot of people, especially when I talk to them, is that the protein is always so high. And if that's going to fit into the range of 20 to 25% of your diet, and then you've got 60 to 65% of carbohydrates, and you're pushing your protein, then you're just ending up with this massive surplus of what it is that you really need. So when I started actually involving these types of diets, I noticed that I was able to bring my weight down and actually still function quite good in my head. So that for me, I feel like nutrition has been a bit, what's that word? Like, it's had its proteins, nutrition's had its name tarnished, especially with protein, because protein is probably one of the best supplements sold on the market. So they've always like advertised like you need to push for more protein and shit. And I feel like that's really developed this big misconception. Do you feel like you can relate in terms of what I'm coming across as?
Nutrition is a very big rabbit hole. I'm learning about that still to this day, and I'd probably like to go to uni and actually do 4 years study of it, because I'm always learning and experimenting on myself. Like I hear something, thought, right, that has some merit, I'll try it on myself. I never give nutritional advice at the gym. I refer them to a person who's fully qualified. So if someone is genuine and wants to lose weight, I can talk to them about what works for my body, because my genetic makeup is going to be totally different to yours. And so I will refer them to a nutritionist, and they should sit there, and then a good one will look at your blood work and then work out what your deficiencies are, and work out your target and all that stuff, and then they'll be able to refine what you like to eat and all that stuff, and then give you a program accordingly. So that's what I'll be doing if I was really serious about it. I can help them with the training. But me personally, I've always gone by the 2 grams per body weight. Okay. So for me, I can try to consume around 200 in a day, but no more than 40 to 50 grams per meal. Yep. And I don't eat anything before about 11 o'clock. So I intermittent fast. Yeah. And when that was coming up, I thought, here's another fad.
It's actually really good.
Sorry?
It's really good for fasting.
For me, again, I'm that disclaimer, for me, it's fantastic. Like, I'm lean. My mental focus is really good. And I used to wake up and have porridge every day. I love porridge or oats or something like that. But now I wake up, the first thing I do is have a big glass of water, rehydrate the brain, gets your circadian rhythm going, everything, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll have a cup of coffee while I'm getting all my stuff ready for work, and then I'll have another cup of coffee while I'm have shower and all that stuff, and then I go to the gym and then I'm drinking water, and then at 11 o'clock, then I'll have my 3 eggs and a protein shake, so I get my 50 grams of protein, bam, right in the start of the day, and then I'll train, and then I'll start eating after that. Yeah. So people will always see me sitting at the back eating my kangaroo vegetables. Yeah. But I love that part of the day. So especially when I'm sitting out in the sun, getting that vitamin D. So so I have a different approach. I have actually quite high protein, high fats. When I say high fats, it's not Macca's. It's
good fats.
Good for avocado. I'll have an avocado every day. Love avocado. Yeah. And almonds and nuts and olive oil on everything.
I also just remembered you're like a lot taller and probably a lot heavier than me as well.
Well, I'm about 92 at the moment. Yeah. About 92. So when I'm 95 is my favourite. I got to 100 once and went to jiu-jitsu and it was lasted 2 rounds. I was like, nah,
Yeah.
I need a cardio. Extra 5 kilos weighs on you, literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
That was one thing, because I did nutrition through year 11 and 12 in high school. And I remember the teacher one day just turns around and says to us, look, nutrition's a very evolving subject. There's a lot going on. There's new things coming out every day. She said there might even be a good chance that half the stuff we've learnt through this course may not even be relevant in a couple of years.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like, there's just so much going on. And like, even with the whole liver thing, I read a thing the other day that was going on about protein consumption and to do with liver damage. Because they were like, kidney damage, sorry. And apparently in the study, they were like, if you have pre-existing kidney damage, it can be really detrimental to your health.
Okay.
Whereas if you don't have any pre-existing damage, your kidneys are actually able to adapt to the increase in protein. Whereas the problem is if they're already damaged, they can't make they can't adapt to it. But then I'm like, that's another thing that's changed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, nutrition's such a complex area, but then it also lends itself to the whole idea of fads, because it's like, well, it's a new development in nutrition. And it's like, well, this new thing you have to try. It's the next best thing. It is what it is. Like, this is the future of nutrition. And it's like, well, let's just calm down for a second.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can try it, but don't expect that all because someone says it's the Holy Grail, you've come across the Holy Grail.
I'll tell you, the Holy Grail is reduced processed foods and sugar.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's another thing, another misconception that I find slightly annoying is the idea it's like, if I eat lots of fat, that's what's making me gain the most weight. Because this was something we learned in nutrition as well. It's like, it's called body fat. So people think it's fat. Whereas for the most part, it's not actually fat. It's adipose tissue, which is just storage of sugar on your body. And you can't interswap the one can't become the other.
Yeah.
So if it's not fat and it can't be turned into fat, well then cutting out fat isn't going to be the thing that gets rid of that.
Yeah. And
you've
food's been built around that conception as well.
Yeah, and that's it. And I'm pretty sure from what, this may be wrong, I may be lying. I'm not Wikipedia. But from what I remember, it had to do with Coca-Cola. And because they had needed research done into the amount of sugar and diabetes and things like that, and they came to the conclusion that fat is what made you gain weight, not sugar. And so then from that point onwards, it was like fat's the bad guy. It was reduced fat yogurt, reduced fat this, reduced fat everything.
My favourite is 99% fat-free lollies.
Yeah, I was so worried about the fat.
Handful of those healthy things.
I just love eating lollies, and it helped me lose weight.
So yeah, and that was another thing. I was like, well, and it was only like, in terms of the history of food, only relatively recently that it's been like, okay, well, maybe that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, well, now sugar's the enemy, but yet, and also the term body fat is like, for someone who knows nothing about nutrition or has never been to a gym or anything like that, the only logical conclusion to come to is be like, well, it's fat. So
that's making me fat.
I've got to cut the fat.
Yeah.
And I thought, that one particularly annoys because it's just like, it's a little bit mischievous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and like I said, it is a rabbit hole, and now I'm discovering, I just read a book, and Dr. Stephanie Mine, she's a female specialist, and I listened to her podcast, and I thought, man, she speaks to females in a layman's terms, but I'm actually loving listening to it because I've got female clients myself. Yeah. So I thought, what's a better way to understand a female and functionality of a female than actually read about the female and listen to this lady, and she's amazing. And I finished reading her book, and my goodness, I'm glad I'm a male. I really empathise with females, and I understand. And now I'd pass that knowledge on to my clients. Like say, because some of them will say, "Oh, I'm just not feeling it." I had a client on Monday, and she was pushing 5 kilos more, even though we're doing still 12 repetitions. She was just blitzing the power. And I said, well, your cycle is always changing. You are going to have a strong week in your cycle. You're going to be like, what's going on? Yeah. And we call it her roid week. We joke about it now. Yeah. And then she'll have a bit of a fluctuation. Well, I'm not feeling it. It's because your body's always changing. So females always change. Guys are easy to change. Yeah. You do some blood work. Oh, yeah, okay, that's a bit low. Let's just Yep. they're easy to fix. Females have got lots going on.
Yeah,
Lots going
absolutely.
on.
And that's why we like to get into these discussions. It's a bit political, but in the terms of there's no difference between female and male, but it's just like there's a lot of differences. Don't even put down how much girls have to go through in terms of like everything that males don't have to worry about.
100%. And especially this garbage about how, men entering female sports. I'm all for people doing what they want to do with their body. I'm all, and that I respect that. But when they start competing in that environment, it's like, well, you can change physical attributes, but I'm sorry, but even if you're suppressing your testosterone, your testosterone levels are going to be higher.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Simple as that.
the average man has testosterone levels 20 to 30 times higher than the average female.
Well, yeah, and even if you suppress it, I mean, it's still going to be high.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because you read it, you listened to a book.
There was a book called Testosterone, which was written, I can't remember the author's name. She's a hormone researcher.
But she was pro the other side.
Yeah, she was. So before writing this book, she was like, sport should be intermingled like genders, blah, blah. And then as she was getting more and more into it, she was like, oh, okay, well, maybe not. And especially like... It starts off with a lot of animal stuff and like basing testosterone, how it changes the performance between certain types of animals and things like that. And then it starts to go more into humans. And it was just like the amount of difference just growing up with testosterone, even if like you can get to adulthood and then like suppress it if you want. But at that point, it's too late. Like your bone structure, it's all different. It's almost two completely different animals. I mean, you take, I think, what was it? Serena Williams, world's greatest female tennis player, in my opinion. I remember she was having an interview, I can't remember who it was with, but they were talking about, like, where do you think you would rank on the men's tennis circuit? And she goes, I wouldn't want to play the men's tennis circuit. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, it's a completely different game. She's like, it's harder, it's faster, it's all these other things. They're like, but you're the world's great. And she's like, yeah, but you don't understand. When you're on the court, it's very different. And then especially like combat sports and things like that, I'm like, look, it's nice to want to strive for equality, but that's an area where I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it trying to empower women, now all you're doing is allowing a bunch of men to beat women. Yeah. It's like, it kind of goes against what you're trying to do.
And my argument towards that is that you're hearing about all these males beating females in these sports. But have you heard the opposite?
Yeah.
Like, is it opposition?
I haven't heard of a transgender coming last.
No.
I could be wrong.
Or even like a woman who becomes a man, then winning a male's like event.
Exactly. That's what
even if you boost because you've grown up and you've been structured without the testosterone. It's even if you were to pump yourself to the gills with testosterone, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like this was the thing this book was going in. It's like your bone structure, everything, it's just not there. So even if you were to pump yourself to the gills after puberty with testosterone, it's still not going to be the same thing.
I know it's slightly flag on the testing.
And also, if it isn't the hulking mass.
That's right. Yeah,
well, it's just like Sadhguru said, we're just a chemical we're walking chemical warehouses. Yeah. So it's just everything that we are is just chemical reaction, all this and that. So... Yeah, that I made my mind up on that topic. We're not going to go any further into that. But another question I want to ask is, how would you say that people's overall personalities progress as they begin to see results and make the gym and a healthier lifestyle a part of their day-to-day life? Because from people when they first walk into like a couple years and down the track and how they are then and there.
Those who persist with it, choose a sustainable path, they don't look back. And that's fun. It's good that you asked that question because that's the most rewarding part of the job because, I've got people at the gym and they constantly, thank you so much. Now I'm under 100 kilos or thank you for, you helped me do this. And then it's like, no, I've got to keep putting it back on them. Well, they're the one rocking up. They're doing the work. I'm giving them a bit of guidance and I'll push you in class if you want it, but you're the one who's doing the work. So, yeah, they're mentally, they just change because their confidence grows. They have a bit of a skip in their step. The posture's better. Like, it's a massive transformation, and that's the best part of the job, is when you actually seeing people changing for the better.
Yeah.
I'm not selling lollies. People walking get bigger and bigger, and I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, but anyway.
Yeah, well, that's good. The main thing I think is really important, not just for like the health, the physical health side of things, but for the mental side of things. It's really important that we get people going in the right directions in terms with progressing into their lives. I feel like with the whole idea of trying to make everything acceptable, despite the fact that it is considerably wrong for some things, such as putting on weight and then making everyone accept it, and then it just hides the fact that people are actually struggling with themselves and the mental side of things. When they actually start doing what is really right, everything begins to change. The way they view reality, the way they handle themselves in social situations, that is one of the big things that I think that people need to progress. It doesn't need to be in a gym. It can be in just hopping into a social environment where it's just like there will be progression. But the gym is one of those things where people get healthier, they get stronger, and confidence really kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
So
after every workout, you get that release of endorphins. I mean, in the class, people are like, if I'm dragging out the assault bike, everyone jokes and hates my guts. But they walk out with like, that was good.
Yeah,
that was good, because they're having that rush, like sense of achievement, and also it's just a general release in their body.
Yeah,
and and the mental gain is huge. And I mean, I know for someone who lives and breathes it, if I don't exercise, or if I can't get to the gym for whatever reason, I'm cranky. I know how positive effect it has on me. So when it's taken away from me, it's not nice. So
it's crazy to think that, like, to begin with, because when people first start, you go to the gym, you're like, and then you drag yourself back into it, and it's like, I don't feel it, and then you drag yourself back, and then by the end of it, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't go to the gym. God damn it.
Yeah.
And so you get cranky. And then when you're in the gym, you're like, yes. And it's crazy how, if like the feeling you get from doing it's a positive feedback loop. It's like, it just gets to the point where you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Do it again and again and again.
As long as it's sustainable.
As long as it's sustainable, yes.
And it's even harder to this today. One thing that people always say, I haven't got time. And then you say, what's your favourite show on Netflix? Oh, shit. I love this and this. Well, you have got time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't watch much TV because I'd rather be doing stuff in my life. Our bodies are designed to move, explore, have fun. It's not to sit on, in my opinion, it's not designed to be sitting on the couch and being fed all these streaming services and Uber Eats. We're really funneling down this lifestyle, and now we've got this metaverse coming where, people can go home, and it's dangerous because I can see how addictive it will be. Like, people are having a shit day at work, that they don't like the way they look. You know what? I'm going to put it's complete escapism. I'm going to put these VR goggles on, just like in that Ready Player One movie, and then they become whoever they want to be, and then they socially interact, and then when it's time to go to bed, they go out and then they do their shit job that they hate, and that'd be that vicious cycle. And I'm really concerned about that, those kind of things in the future. I mean, what you got unlimited streaming services. You don't have to leave your home anymore. You don't have to go to the shop. You don't have to go out to get food. You can, you don't even need a car. You just, you can get an Uber anywhere. You can go on. It's just, it's scary, man.
It's a vicious cycle.
This is exactly why we've decided to start actually doing such a podcast, because it was only about a year ago or so, because Josh and I have before they stopped us listening to stuff at work, we had a really good job in terms of being able to like listen to music and podcasts and audiobooks and all those types of things. So when we first started like getting to know one another at work, what was happening was that like I was a bit of a conspiracy nut and he was very real, like truthful about the situation, and we'd get into these little debates and arguments, and in the end I ended up reading like a lot more books because I wanted to prove him wrong. In the end I went up to him and I was like, maybe I'm the problem. And then like after that, it was just like after going further and further into those ideas and understanding them more, I began to look at my reality of just coming to work all the time and just exhausting myself of all this bullshit of like not wanting to be there. But the thing that I've employed personally to the way I think is I look back at what humans probably were doing about 1,000 years ago and look at it from that perspective, because everything that is on the outside is within as well. Within, without, out, within. So if we're going to look at our situation as not as good as we're wanting it to be, then we're not being truthful to ourselves. We need to understand that if it is that we've discovered this path, or that we're on this path and it's not going anywhere, it's just like, am I doing anything to help it? Is my job shit because I don't understand the benefits of it? And I think that when I started, like, because I didn't want to be picking boxes for 8 hours every day, 6 days a week, but then I understood it. It's just like, I'm a part of helping people get food onto their plates each day. I'm part of this huge economic system that has continued to develop over time. And when I look at it, it's just like, the way we were living just 50 years ago. The poorest person today lives like the richest man 50 years ago.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that we have tarnished this idea of thinking that we deserve more and all this, like, oh, we shouldn't have to be working, the government should pay for this and that. And it's just like, no, because where does this incentive come from to actually do better? If you're given money, if you're given streaming services, Facebook, all these types of things for cheap prices or practically for free, then it's just like, what incentive do you have to do better for yourself? So I feel like for people that are in these situations that are like, instead of changing my environment to see that what I'm doing is right or that what they're doing is wrong, and just accepting that this is your environment and just learn to love it or try to improve on it. And that's the same with, similar to the gym and all those types of things. It's just like, you don't feel like you're doing good enough at the gym. What is it that you could be doing that could be better? You don't want to be at the gym. What could make it better? You don't like your job. What can you do? Make it better. Get another job. We have so much freedom and so much abundance of resources to be able to do whatever it is that we want to do with our lives. We are very, very fortunate to have this day and age.
We are quite literally the most fortunate people in history.
You cannot name another time on planet Earth where we were this fortunate. And if we keep pushing it with what is it, the existential vacuum of objects and things that make us feel better, then we're going to start becoming worse off. We need to suffer in order to benefit. Our environment needs to break us to make us.
100%.
We need to keep going.
That's how I grew when I was younger. When I was 18, I was living in the granny flat with my mum. Oh, well, she was living in the main house. I was living in the granny flat, loving life because I didn't pay rent. She looked after me in that regard, and went up to the house for meals. All the money that I made was spent on alcohol on the weekend. I was like, how good's this life, you know? Then my mum goes, oh, I'm going to move to Tasmania. I was like, I don't want to go. And she goes, oh, you don't have to. I was like, oh, shit, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then, and I went through huge adversity, and you often hear that adversity makes you stronger. And then I 100% agree. And that was a blessing in disguise, because from that, all of a sudden I didn't have money. All of a sudden I've had to have 2 jobs to pay for rent and get myself through uni. And then I became better with money. And so if I didn't have those struggles, I'd
be here.
Why would I leave a granny flat?
Absolutely.
Rent free and meals paid for. I'd just be like cruising on through life, you know? And that's, and adversity is like, when you struggle, you become better. And I 100% agree with that. And that goes through like the gym. Like, if your heart rate is getting up and you're breaking over 150 and you're like, oh, this is shit. Well, guess what? That's good for you.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, like depending on your fitness level and everything. But you go, adversity makes you stronger. It gets, if you someone might say, I'm feeling hot in the gym, Well, that's good, because when your car breaks down, it's 40 degrees and you've got to wait for the RAA. You're not going to be as bad. Look at it that way.
Yeah.
So it's toughening you up.
Find a meaning behind your suffering.
100%.
There's always a meaning for
Oh,
it.
100%.
I think the problem is a lot of people look at suffering as a zero-sum game. It's only taking something from me.
Yeah.
How am I gaining anything out of this? Whereas it's not until later on in the future where you find yourself in a situation where an aspect of what you went through in the past comes back to help you, that you go, actually, you know what? Maybe it was a good thing I did that.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as hard the second time.
Absolutely. It's and like you said, the environment that we live in today is so accommodating and so generous, and less and less people are experiencing genuine hardship.
Yeah, I mean, the way our economy is moving forward is elimination of all struggling. If you can eliminate a struggle, well, then there's money to be made.
Yeah, we're noticing that we've reached the peak on how little struggle we actually have to face. And it's just like now we're looking for things to change, and it's just like everything that we had before was based off of wanting to get out of our situation. Now when we're no longer in these horrible situations, what's next?
Yeah.
Well, nothing, because it was mainly after World War I and II. These were the things that drove innovation, technology advances, the economy to grow so great. And now we've like got to this point where like people just don't know how good they've got it, and it's just like, we need to change this, we need to change that, and it's just like, hang on, these are the things that actually got us here. We can't keep like doing changing all these things and expecting good results. We need to have some type of fucking painful situations in our lives to make sure that we keep going with this.
Yeah.
So that's my view on that type of thing, is that even in the gym, you gotta put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because it's that situation where you actually progress.
Yes.
And when you get out there after you've struggled through your situations, you no longer look at yourself as someone that is a subordinate to someone greater than what you could, someone that's you think better than you. No, you will start to see yourself as an opponent, a competitive person against that person, and go, I'm actually worth something, and I feel that deep down, and I'm going to keep pushing so that way I become more. This is like people that have the pictures of, let's say, Michael Jordan on their wall. They're playing basketball and they just keep getting better and better, and they might end up in like a huge league.
It might be like Mike.
Yeah, it might be like Mike. So,
okay, we say this, but the problem is there's a big wall of something that's in the way of getting to that feeling.
plan, prepare, and expect, motherfucker.
Suffer. And the thing is, we have this mindset, whereas if you just see the big wall of suffering, it's like, well, why would I needlessly suffer?
Yeah.
That just seems dumb. Because and this is the thing, especially if the world keeps going forward the way it is, there will never be a situation where you will get the opportunity to have to do that. Because if it's always comfort, and then there's optional struggle, well, no. Why would I do that? What?
That's right.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, from a logical standpoint, if you do not have the mindset or have not experienced otherwise, and comfort has always worked, I mean, you're still alive, and all you've done has been in comfort. You may not be living the best life, but you're still alive. Would it not be logical for that person, and it's not the right thing to do, but it would be the logical thing to do, to continue towards that comfort?
Oh, 100%.
So it's like
human nature. Look for the easy way out.
Yeah, exactly. So you need situations where suffering is not an option.
Yeah.
It's the only option.
We've found a new thing that we're suffering with today, and that is we're getting what it is that we need in terms of being comfortable, but now we're faced with the reality of not being able to handle what goes through our heads. And this is the one thing that I was walking this morning, actually, and the thoughts that I used to have was me. Now I'm having to face the thoughts that were me as a critic of me, because I've turned away from that ideal or that view of the way I should see things. And now I'm having to face myself and these struggles. And now, because I've had to face myself, no longer putting that thing that I was facing into reality, and I see which is wrong, that I begin to, that thing that which was facing on reality has turned to me and started tormenting me, that I've had to begin tormenting it back to understand.
That internal dialogue.
Yeah, I've had to learn how to like grow bigger than myself. And there comes a time where I might just have to face that new person that I've become to keep growing. And that's the thing with this mental state, is that we have to continuously progress, not just in our environments, but mentally as well. And this goes a lot hand in hand with what it says in religions and stuff. Mother Teresa was big on these types of things. It's not just about facing the world without, but the world within. And if we're finding ourselves deserving of more and more comfort, then this thing that is creating us will begin to deteriorate the world. Just have a look at what it is that you're doing, face that thing that which you are, and see how you like it. See how it makes you feel having to face that person that you are becoming. It's not pretty. It's tormenting. And that's where people begin to become so mentally unstable, is when they understand that what they're doing is wrong. And then that thing turns on itself. And then it's just like, oh, shit. Then you have to actually start doing something now, because you have to make a new person of yourself.
But you know, it'd be a good avenue to seek a little bit of voluntary suffering.
Yeah.
The gym.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, and it could be anything. Yeah, it could be the gym. It could be simply walking up that hill that you live behind.
Cold shower.
Yeah, cold shower. Yeah, you know.
Just something to throw you off a little bit. You know? Be like, oh, okay.
I mean, I suffer every time I go on the mats in jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm on the sideline exhausted, like, oh, that's tough, and you walk off beaten up, you know, but I get that rush. I love it. But over the years, it's made me a better individual. You know, I'm used to adversity now. Like, it's hard to break me. Like, there's certain things that's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm only human. But if I'm on that assault bike, I just try and just think like, you know, what's my other person going to be doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, and I push myself. Like, are they going to push themselves as hard as me? And that thrives. I thrive on that.
Yeah.
I thrive on that.
I've been thinking for like the past year that I want to start jiu-jitsu. I've just been wanting to do it, but
do it today.
We got plenty of floor space, right, boys?
That's all right.
Working nights makes it so hard, because like most of them that I've looked at were like around 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock, and I'm like, I got to be at work.
Yeah, that would be hard for you. I know there's a new one. There's an Armour just around here. That's
that's the one I've been looking at.
Jesse's, he's a good instructor.
I've seen some good reviews on it, so I was just like, I might check out that one.
Yeah, it's good culture there too. Like, they're not idiots.
Okay.
Pretty much. I mean, I'd rate say our club, but it's at Holden Hill.
Yeah.
Progressive, but that you got to find a place that fits. You know, and it's like a gym. You know, you walk in. You'll train, and you'll either spark up some good conversations with people, or you'll have a roll with someone in spar session, and then they'll probably manhandle you a bit. Shouldn't hurt you, and then they'll explain what happened.
Yeah,
you know, and that's
cool.
that's what a good club should do. Like, you have an appreciation. You know, it's like when I roll him, you know, Declan, he's the best probably in Australia. You know, I train with him every fortnight, and he's half my age, and we go roll 5 minutes, and then he tells me where I went wrong, and then we roll again. But you know, but I love it. Like, it's people. Well, they get back to like adversity. Why would I drive down from my house down to Brighton, pay him for an hour, drive home after getting beaten up? Like, what makes any sense? Like, it's easy to say, look, I'm just going to save myself $80, $100, save myself 3 hours, and save myself some humility. Whereas. But I always walk away, you know, I didn't, he beats me all the time, but I learn.
Yeah.
I learn from it. And then it just grows me as an individual. And that's why I love that adversity, you know.
And that's also another part of suffering as well, because it's like you could surround yourself with people that are not as good as you.
100%.
Yeah. 100%.
And you would be the best in the room.
Yeah.
But would you learn anything?
No, you're not going to grow.
No.
Yeah, you're not going to grow.
And one day, those people below you might just outgrow you.
Yeah.
And so it's like...
And they are. Like, the people in our club, they've been training for a few years, and they're just like... because they're sucking all your skills and like asking all the questions, and they're doing all the right things. That's what I'd be doing. But
it's like that thing with chess. I don't know what book it was. It was going on about this guy. He was like 40s, having to face a 15-year-old chess master, and they're like, "Oh, you've got plenty of experience. You're going to beat him." He's just like, "No,
Yeah.
He's read all my books.
Yeah.
He's going to beat me. He knows everything that I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's very humbling getting done by when you are dead sure, like for yourself. If you look at, you're in a competition, you're looking at going, sizing out, going, or what, one time you're looking at a guy, he's got tattoos, he's pretty jacked, he's going to be a tough one. And then you man, you think, well, that was good. I did well. I cleaned him up. But then you come up across a kid, and wiry kid, 16, you think, I'm going to walk through this dude. And guess what happens? You get humbled big time, That's happened to me before in comps where but that's great. And because I didn't walk away, oh, this is shit, this sport. I go, man, I taught, I always learn from my losses.
Yeah.
I love competing. I always shit myself because it's an intense situation. You want to win just as much as the other guy, but there's always going to be a loser. But I've always learnt from them. Like, I won't do that particular move again, or I'll study that particular area of the game.
And the thing is, even though you lost, you still won.
Yeah, I know, and it's so cliche, and everyone says that all the time. You don't win and lose. You win and learn. But it is legit.
Yeah,
it is legit.
Absolutely. Before we wrap it up and stuff, I sort of want to go into that thing again where people say they don't have a lot of time. For people that are going to be listening, if you're someone this is my side of how I view weight training. If anyone is actually interested in gaining more strength and gaining more mass, Mike Menser and Dorian Yates were one of my key. I used to read a lot of people. A lot of bodybuilders, a lot of Arnold, heaps of people, because I did it for a few years before I quit for a year. And the year before I quit, I started researching about Mike Menser's and Dorian Yates' technique and only training for once a week, because I do one Tuesday will be deadlifts, chest, triceps for one set. So I'm in the gym for about 30 minutes. And then the next Tuesday will be squats, bent over rows, and biceps. So in terms of being able to progress, you don't actually need to be in the gym a whole lot. You can quite literally go in there for once train a body part a fortnight, go hammer and tongs, get some real strength, and walk out and stuff. I find that's probably the best thing that I have come across, is pushing that one day really, really, really hard. Fucks me up for 4 to 5 days, but in terms of time and shit, I've got so much time. I don't feel shit all the time to not have to stretch before bed every night. So if anyone's interested in those types of things, Mike Menser and Dorian Yates were my guys. Guys.
I'm also halfway through Frank Zane's book at the moment. He's got a book. I've just about halfway through. This one's a compilation of all his literature, and you can tell because in some chapters it repeats a story of what's in a previous chapter. But so that wasn't greatly edited, but yeah, that's got some good nuggets in it. Yeah, it's got some good nuggets, and I think you can handpick, like you said, from Dorian Yates, and you can learn from many. Yeah, many guys.
It's just like the chess kid. Just read everyone's book.
Yeah, get better than them.
But it's also interesting to what made me pick up Frank Zane's book is the fact that I listened to him on a podcast, and the dude is in his 80s now.
And he looks amazing still,
and he's still walking 5 miles a day, and then and he's still moving and enjoying life with his wife. And so I thought, well, he's in his 80s. He trained pretty hard. I'm going to read this guy's book and see how he trained, because I want to be training in my 80s.
He's made it sustainable.
Yeah, there you go. And that's what I mean. One thing you've got to take into consideration with these guys is that they did use supplements, which I wouldn't condone. So you've got to have that in your formula of working out what's going to work for you as well. I'm picking out some good nuggets, and then I'll pass them on to other people. This is what I think you should do. This is what I'm doing now. It's helping me. And that's what I love about being my age in the gym, is that people can't come in and say, that's all right, when I'm in my 20s, I can do that, but that's past me now. And then I say, well, I'm older than you by a couple of years, actually. And they go, what? So, okay, what's your next excuse?
Exactly. So, that's always the case, isn't it? All right.
Thanks, guys.
That's all right.
Been good.
All right. We'll finish it up.
Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and the YouTube channel. And until next time, thank you.
Catch you later.
Ciao.